In the late 80s to early 90s, I came in contact with a man named Tony Robbins. I saw him on a late night infomercial with Fran Tarkenton, talking about the ability to change your emotions and thereby changing your behavior. That whatever you were doing was based on what you were thinking or how you interpreted your thoughts or what you thought those thoughts meant. What does this mean? Is this important? Is this not important? This was called neuro-linguistic programming. And I was so interested in it, not only because science of the mind is something that interests me, but because of the person who was speaking about it, his energy, his charisma, his charm, and mainly his belief. What he actually thought all of this meant to a person. And the fact that he believed that with the right mental engineering, any person could change their life through this series of self-talk. What do you believe about yourself? How is your mind interpreting the images you see? Are these images locked in frame, or can they be exploded and broken? Are you stuck in a one-size-fits-all category in terms of the way you think and how these images control your emotions and your body responding to the thoughts? Saying things like, emotion is created by motion. If you're sitting and you're slumped and you're down in the dumps, you feel one way. But if you sit up straight and you have energy, you feel another way. It is so interesting how our mind works. I would listen to Tony Robbins on the infomercials. At the time, I saw Personal Power, the book, and the tape series. And I wanted that tape series. And I remember saving up money. And I remember when I ordered it, and it came in the tape box, and there was a lot of tapes. And every day I listened to those tapes. And I could hear Tony's voice in my head talking about neuro-linguistic programming. And when we go through life and tragedy comes our way, and we remember these teachings, these ideas, and we reach for these ideas, and we want to be strengthened by these ideas. Over time, when you're around different people who think different from you, and you fall into the negatives of life when things don't quite go your way, and you're left alone, fighting, struggling. I remember all the things I thought about. while listening to those tapes, they brought me a certain amount of joy. I went through all the exercises. I looked forward to them. I look forward to all the ideas, all the new things that I was learning. I was excited about it. But what happens when life changes? When you go through different circumstances and life comes at you in a different way. What happens? I often think about this, and I also remember how I listened to other guys that were motivational. None of them seemed to have that energy that Tony Robbins had. The belief that it could work for anyone who believed it. And neuroscience, the science of how the brain creates meaning and how changing your language, internal pictures change your behavior. I remember that. Neuroscience, how the nervous system affects our emotions and how that affects what we do. How emotion is created within us. How fear is created within us. Neuroscience is the study of how your brain creates thoughts, emotions, memories, decisions, habits, and behavior based on your brain and your nervous system. What happens when the police gets behind you and the lights come on? What happened when you were a child and you broke the sugar bowl? What happens when you see a fierce dog walking down the street and he's loose and he's growling at you? We automatically get engaged through our nervous system to react a certain way. And we've all done this all of our lives. I was thinking within myself, if I met Tony Robbins and he knew what I had been through in life, and he knew that I had been to prison, and he knew what I had been charged with, and he knew the things that people say, how would Tony see Ahmaud Blakemore? Someone that I admired, someone that I wanted to pattern my thinking after in terms of the things he taught, how he understood it, and how he believed it. Would Tony Robbins be like everybody else? Would Tony Robbins say, "You can't change. You're no good. That one thing you did 30 years ago still matters"? What would Tony say? I imagine having these conversations with Tony Robbins. I have never met him personally, I can still hear his voice in my head from the tapes that I listen to constantly. Would Tony see my fall? Yeah, he'd see the fall. I don't think he'd overlook it. I don't think he would pretend it didn't happen. I don't think he would say, nah, yeah, you didn't go to prison. It doesn't matter. I don't think he'd say that. I think he'd say, that was terrible. That's the worst thing in the world. But the thing about Tony Robbins is he's worked with violent offenders, addicts, murderers, and millionaires all in the same room. He's not blind to failure. He's not one of those people that will judge you for what you did at your lowest point. He's going to take a look and see what happens after your lowest point. Tony Robbins always had a mantra: the past doesn't equal the future. And I can remember that as a young 20-year-old, listening to his voice in my car, playing those tapes constantly. The past doesn't equal the future. Those images can be shattered. The past doesn't matter unless you live there, unless you're trying to stay there. We have to understand that the past doesn't equal the future. There's a lot of people that tell you it does. There's a lot of people that tell you you can't change, you can't grow, you can't be better because of that thing. Remember that thing you did 100,000 years ago? That is what people want us to believe, that we can't change, that we can't do better. All of it is within us. Whether it be neuro-linguistic programming or neuroscience or whatever technology we want to use, we can change. People change all the time. In fact, they say the only constant is change. I admire the work that Tony Robbins did. I am happy that I had those tapes and those ideas and those thoughts as a young man that I can still pull from today and know for a fact that he is correct, that the past doesn't equal the future. That's not to excuse what was done in the past. That's not to excuse the people that were hurt in the past. That's not to say that those people don't deserve justice. But it is to say all of us are equal in our ability to move forward. Whether you're the victim or whether you're the perpetrator, you have the ability to be better. My name is Ahmad Blakemore. I am the modern day leper, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.